Okay, a few quick announcements. For the rest of the term, sessions like internship workshops, things like that, let's just assume they're all gonna be in here unless you get a note from me otherwise. It turns out we're gonna have pretty big numbers in a lot of those things, and we need big space, so we will be in here for most of those events. Currently available to you is, anybody who might be interested in this is a great opportunity to get involved. SOS applications are about to be open in the middle of October, and they are starting the recruitment. Otherwise, it's not coming up. Yep. So SOS position description, if you're interested in doing this, these are the folks who, when you came in for orientation over the summer, were the people who kind of guided you around, took you around. Again, I will wait for you. So, guys, your voices carry. I've told you that before. So, okay, so this is for those of you who might be interested in the 2017 SOS position. There are a lot of obligations, so if you are interested in this, you need to read through this and make sure that you can meet those obligations if you apply. There's a special class you have to take. You have to maintain a 2.8 GPA, but you also have to maintain a 2.8 GPA to be in good standing in the College of Business, so for that status quo for you as a student here. There are skits and all that kind of fun stuff. If you're involved with the Greek chapter, I know they like to see those kind of involvements. There are some information sessions, and I don't have those dates, but if you walk down to the Reinhardt Center downstairs, they have a poster in the window with those dates and times if you would like to attend an information session to get more information about this. It is a paid position, so I don't know, pay is subject to change, so I have no idea what the pay is, but it is a paid position if you're interested in doing that. And I just found this information. If you're interested in getting more, just go to the U of L homepage and put SOS application in there, and you can get more information about that. So, also as a reminder, we need to make sure everybody is getting an advising appointment scheduled. You're going to keep getting those emails if you haven't scheduled one, and then in 2 weeks you're going to start getting like personal taps from me on the shoulder while you're here in the classroom. So we have a list of everybody who doesn't, and you should have gotten another email about that yesterday. If you haven't done an advising appointment, you have to get one. Even if you're not going to see them until before registration, you need to get an appointment. If you're an honors student, you must see your honors advisor and your College of Business advisor. If you're an athlete, you must see your athletics advisor as well as your College of Business advisor. It's the College of Business advisor who lifts the hold for you so that you can register in November. Also remember, you need to do the Haven and Alcohol EDU in order to be able to register, and there's a 45-day latency period between Part A and Part B. So you are almost to a window where if you have not done Part A, you will not be able to register in November at your priority registration time. So please make sure you're on top of that so that you can get that taken care of. So, all right, are you guys, are you ready? So, all right. So today we've got Chris and Lucas talking to you about networking and the different aspects of that. So I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Is this on?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Great way to start a Friday. All right. So I am here today to talk to you about building your professional network. How many people were at the career fair yesterday? Fabulous. How many people did you meet? Good, good. Did anybody get leads on internships? Summer job? Excellent. What's your area? Accounting. Oh yeah, they were looking for lots of accountants yesterday, weren't they? Anybody else from another major? Accounting? Okay. Anybody from another major get some leads? Any other accountants get some leads? All right, well, one of the things that we know about social networking, is there a clicker up here? No, I do not have a clicker. Oh, no clicker. Ah. All right, so I'm going to give you some basics on social networking and teach you how to build your network in a really strategic way, and I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a warning. So people, maybe you've heard the expression, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And technically, if you're a real grammar nerd, it's whom you know, not who you know. All right. All right, so a social network is something that's really easy for us to understand today because we have things like LinkedIn and Facebook and other kinds of social networks. So we intuitively get that. But social networks aren't only the people that you're connected to electronically. Social networks are any kind of network of human connection that you have to other people. So what kinds of networks do you belong to besides your Facebook network and maybe your LinkedIn network? Pardon? Did I hear something over here? Not social media. Student network. So yeah, so you're part of this U of L student network. What other networks are you part of? Work networks. And who said that? All right. And where do you work? UPS. All right. UPS is a huge network of people, right? What other networks? Yeah, so there's a lot of people here, I bet. Anybody here in the Greek network? Lots of hands go up. All right. Anybody in an alumni network? All right. If there's any of you who went to any of the Catholic schools here in Louisville, they have really incredible, well-planned networks with lots of events. So they can be friendship networks, alumni networks, coworkers, all these ways that you're connected to people. But it's not just who you know, so there's all the people that you know in these networks, but it's who those people know. And so that's kind of the interesting part, is the who one degree out, another degree out, no. So let me give you an example. This lovely individual, her name is Mackenzie. And I met Mackenzie at a conference, and she said, I'm looking for a job. And it's an academic job, but let me explain to you what she does. She's a linguist who studies executive development in business schools. And she said, I want a job in a business school who's looking for somebody who's a linguist. Do we have a linguistics department here in the College of Business? No. I mean, it's a really rare kind of thing that somebody would want a linguist in a business school. There might be only 4 or 5 jobs. But she told me about this, and we had some great conversations. We met for lunch one day, talked about her career plans. But then all of a sudden, this network came in. So the only person she knew was me that she met at a conference. But I knew this guy right here. And his name is Jason. He was a PhD student here. He was in a band in town. He seemed to know everybody in the city of Louisville, and he was a master networker. So one day, Jason, before I meet Mackenzie, Jason says to me, hey, one of my profs from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is coming to town to go to Actors Theater with me. You should meet us out for dinner. Come with me and meet Howard. So I go out to dinner with Howard and Jason, and we sit and talk about Actors Theater and how great life is in Louisville, and I keep in touch with Howard. We become connections on LinkedIn. I subscribe to his blog. Occasionally he'll email me things. It's just a professional relationship with somebody I maybe see once a year. So now go back to my conversation with Mackenzie. We just get done eating lunch. She says, I have no idea how I'm going to find a job as a linguist in a business school. And I said, well, I said, you know what, maybe you need to meet Howard Aldrich. He's a sociologist in a business school. He might be able to help you. I'm going to set you up with an email. But we're at a conference, so we walk because we decided we wanted ice cream. That's a great thing to do after you go to lunch. And then on the way over, who did I bump into? Howard. And I told Howard, you need to meet Mackenzie. She's fabulous. You're just going to absolutely love her. But she's really struggling because she wants to get a job as a linguist. And he said, oh, maybe she needs to meet my colleague standing right here next to me who works at the University of Leeds. She's a linguist in a business school, and she's looking to hire somebody. So it's a really weird turn of events, and this all happened in Canada. So you never know who that weird chain of connections is. And so I bring up this story and I tell you this, not because I'm trying to say, oh, I'm this master networker, because I'm not. I have very average networking skills. Very, very average. Nothing special about my skills. But because of that, Mackenzie now has this really great connection. So another example is one of my students, Natalie, had connected with me on LinkedIn. She was a student from a previous university, and I told her to keep in contact, to go out and network. And so she wanted to make a switch into human resource management, and so she was Googling people or using the LinkedIn lookup function, and she found this woman named Marissa Gift, and who did exactly the kind of job she wanted to do in Omaha, Nebraska. And it said, you have a shared connection, Kristen Lucas. And the shared connection is that I was Marissa's roommate when I was in school. And so I called up Marissa. Actually, I didn't call up Marissa. Marissa called up me and said, hey, Natalie emailed me and said, you know my old professor, Kristen, could I come in and talk to you about making a career transition into talent management? And of course, because there was that connection, she said yes. So here's some professional network basics, or some benefits. So one of the things that we know about people who develop really strong social networks in organizations is they're a lot more successful in their careers. What we know is that they get more job-related information, so you're going to get more information from different people across your network about how to do your job better. You're going to get more resources. So if you need a computer, if you need somebody to do something for you, if you need some sort of access, you're more likely to get that if you have a stronger network. You're also going to get more career advice and sponsorship. It's more likely that somebody's going to take you under their wing and say, that Lauren, she's really talented. Let's make sure that she gets nominated for that management trainee program or that leadership development academy. And you're going to make more social connections just for social support purposes. And what we find out is that when people have this job information and organizational resources and social networks and career sponsorship, that they're ultimately more successful. People with better social networks get more raises, more promotions, and report more happiness on the job. So doesn't that sound good? More raises, more promotions. Let's see, so let's skip ahead. So here's where we get to building your network. And so I want you to pull out some paper because we're going to be doing some mapping today. Or if you're totally tech savvy and you're like, what, paper? I don't have paper. By all means, grab out your tablet or laptop or whatever you use to record your notes. All right, it looks like we're just about all set. So the first thing that you need to do to build your social network in a strategic way is to start by establishing what your social network looks like today. And when I talk about social network, I'm not necessarily talking about your Facebook friendship network, although some of those people might play into your professional network. Here I'm talking specifically about your career network. So this includes people like teachers and professors. So what teachers and professors do you think are going to be your greatest benefit in terms of your social network? Yes? Yeah, so what you want to do is think about the professors that you have that are in your major, right? So if you're an accounting major, who are your accounting professors who can help get you in? What other kinds of professors besides your major professors? Any others besides just in your major? How about, yes? Yeah, maybe your minor professors, especially if that's linked up somehow in a strategic way to your career. So maybe you are a, let's see, a marketing major or maybe a whatever, and you have, say, a marketing major and a communication minor, and you're taking all those classes in social media, maybe with Karen Freeberg over in the Department of Communication. Yeah, you would want her in your network because she's going to help you get a marketing social media job. What about professors where you've done really well in their class? Right? So think about the people who they would write you a really glowing letter of recommendation, because let's face it, we all know that there's some classes we do better in than others. So think about the professors who think very positively of you, that you excelled in their course, and they can speak to your ability. Another thing that I'm going to say is that employers tend to look for students with strong communication skills, so think about your business communication professors as people who can also speak to your communication ability. Then think about your job supervisors. So this doesn't even have to necessarily be in your field, but why do you think a job supervisor would be helpful? Yes? Yeah, they're going to talk about your professionalism. They're going to let me know that you come on time every day, that you're a real hard worker. So they're going to let me know all those positive things. So they're really important. What about family, friends? Yeah, they can get you on a certain job. So here's another crazy example. So years ago, I used to work for Shell Oil. And when I moved to Houston, Texas to work for Shell, there was, I'd meet all kinds of sales guys, right? That's mostly who we had. And so we would go out for happy hours, and then everybody seemed to know a friend that I had who didn't work for Shell, which I thought was really weird. I'm like, why does everybody know Dennis? Every single person I meet, no matter what district they're in, they seem to know this other guy who was about all of our age. We were all in our 20s. This other guy in his 20s. Why do they know him? He doesn't even work for Shell. Well, eventually when I got to talking to them, I realized that all of these guys were the guys who grew up playing like Little League baseball with Dennis. And the reason why Dennis is important is not because Dennis had any clout with Shell Oil. He was just a 25-year-old kid. But Dennis's dad was a senior vice president of Shell Oil. And when it came time to hire people, he started hiring kids, grown-ups, hiring college grads who had hung out with his son when they were kids. So don't overlook those family friends, because they can be a really great pathway in. So do you have some names written down? All right. I like the go-getters up here in this front corner. Anybody? You all have some names written down, some professors, some supervisors, some family friends who maybe work in your industry? All right, so number 2 is you need to make connections. So just mapping what your network is not totally strategic. It's the first step, but the next step is trying to build out that network by making connections. So again, you've just made your preliminary list, but now you need to keep track of it. So how are you going to keep track of it? Yes. And how are you going to do that? Email, all right. You come on up here and teach this class. Yeah, so any way that you can keep in contact with them. So there's a couple things that I recommend. Back in the old days, we used to have these things called a Rolodex. Has anybody even heard that term, or is that completely passé? I see a couple people. Chandler is Laughing, yeah. So Rolodex, so you hang onto their business cards, right? You maybe jot down on the back where you met them. Now we can do this on LinkedIn. How many people have a LinkedIn profile? That's not very many hands. So what you want to do is, we'll talk about LinkedIn a bit, but find a way to keep track of people, both at a surface level, who they are, what their contact information is, but also at a deeper level. So going back to what you said, and what is your name? Elliot. So Elliot said office hours, going to lunch, giving them phone calls, sending them emails. So you want to just keep in touch. But then also seek out opportunities. So think about alumni associations are a great way to reach out. So reaching out to the people who graduated from your high school, but also maybe reaching out through alumni associations here at U of L to say, hey, I saw that you graduated with a degree in economics from U of L and you're now working here. Can I talk to you, right? So that's a way to use alumni networks. Professional student organizations. Who belongs to a professional student organization related to their major? Alex? Beta Alpha Psi. Lillian, did your hand go up? All right, excellent. Excellent. All right, those are the kinds of organizations you want to join. Elliot, you had one? Okay. Those are the kinds of organizations that you want to join because they're going to establish some sort of network, and you can leverage that to talk to people in working as professionals. And there's also YPAL, Young Professionals Association of Louisville. How many people belong to YPAL? Excellent. One hand in here. Tell us about YPAL.
Well, some of them may not know because I think you have to be 22 to join. But they do a lot of like really cool happy hours, and it's a bunch of just young professionals. They just get together and talk. They meet at a lot of really cool locations and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so put this on your calendar for your 22nd birthday. Join YPAL. Hang out with them, get to know them. Yeah, they'll do like Thirsty Thursday at Bats games and happy hours. They also bring in guest speakers. They do all kinds of great things. But then it's time to get really strategic. All right, so here's where you start putting that all into practice. So we have this, you've identified what your network is. You're going to start making connections, but here's how to do it in a slightly more strategic way. So number one, set up your LinkedIn page. I asked how many people had one, and I saw about 4 hands go up. Is there anybody here who does not know what LinkedIn is? Go ahead, raise your hand. All right, so LinkedIn is kind of like Facebook, but for professional adults. So instead of sharing your day-to-day activities of what you're doing with family and friends and maybe what you're eating or how you're working out, what you're sharing is your resume and your credentials, your work history, and you might even be sharing posts about your profession. So if you work in social media, you might be writing posts on social media. So it's very professionally oriented. So one of the things you can do, and I think this might be linked here. I'm going to cancel that. Let's see. Okay, so here is mine. So I have my name, my title, where I work, where I previously worked, where I graduated from. And then if you click on this, it'll show connections. You have an opportunity to write a summary statement about yourself. And here's something really terrific that we do in the College of Business. Through the business communication courses, we offer an opportunity once a semester for you to come in and free of charge get a professional headshot taken. And if that term seems jargony to you, it's just kind of like the professional photo where you dress up and do your hair and maybe put on a suit and tie or whatever it is that you're wearing. And we take those professional shots, and so you have a very professional image lit with a nice background to put on your LinkedIn page. And there are some drop-in hours coming up, so if somebody's interested in doing that right now before you're in your business communication class, give me a call and I'll get you that information. But there's an opportunity for you to sell yourself here and make connections. And I have to say that employers will use this to search for people with special skills and education, and sometimes people get job offers from LinkedIn. One of my friends received a job offer that came from LinkedIn. Now, she was a little bit older. She had a little bit more experience, but it was a 6-figure job at Humana, and they contacted her because of her LinkedIn page. So make sure that you get that updated and looking good. So here is my challenge to you. In the next week, how about this? Before October break is over, so maybe you do right now, right after class, maybe you do it sometime during October break. Set up a LinkedIn page for yourself. Put your most professional photo up there, write a description, add in some information about yourself, and send requests to at least 5 people on that list you just wrote down of who's in your professional network. They make it really easy. There's a search box, kind of just like Facebook. You can look people up by name. You can look them up by email. Once you establish some of your network, LinkedIn is going to start making suggestions to you based on the same algorithms that Facebook uses of people you might know. So that's your first assignment. 1 LinkedIn page, 5 connections. And then another thing that Facebook allows is endorsements or recommendations. So there's 2 different things that can happen. One is you can get endorsed for skills. So maybe you have skills in Microsoft Excel or in social media management, or you have skills in SPSS or statistical analysis or whatever your strengths are. You can put those in and then ask people to endorse you. And so if you put in business communication, maybe you want your business communication professor to endorse you. If you put in Excel, maybe your CIS professors to endorse you for those skills. So you want those endorsements. You can also ask people for references, and they're really short references, almost like a short little Yelp review, but of you. Like, this person Paige was a terrific person. She was my employee and really hardworking, blah, blah, blah. So ask for 1 endorsement or 1 recommendation as well. Do you think you can do this? All right, excellent. All right, so special assignment. Oh, sorry, here's where the warning comes in. Beware of cyber vetting. Cyber vetting is a big, long, fancy name for the practice that employers do when they're looking to hire you. And so I might be looking to hire an entry-level person, an entry-level manager, and I get some applications in, and they will Google that person's name and see what pops up. And so you want to make sure that whatever pops up represents you in a very dignified, professional sort of way. So a couple things to look out for is your online handle. So if you have a blog that is maybe not terribly professional, or if you have an email address that has the word sexy anywhere in it, and believe you, like, I get people applying for jobs that have emails that have the word sexy in it, not exactly professional. You want basically your name, maybe your major, because maybe your Gmail has taken 150 addresses with your name. So maybe it's Tiara Binford Accounting at gmail.com or something like that. So be careful of your online email address. Be careful of Facebook stories. Do you know what your Facebook account looks like to strangers? You don't? I see some head shaking. All right, yeah, this is bad news because it's amazing how much information is out there. So it's not just what you're posting, because maybe you're really professional. So Joshua, you're really professional on your Facebook, but your friend next to you, and what is your name? Keegan likes to write terrible stories, well, not terrible stories, but not professional stories about their weekend exploits. Like, oh, we had so much fun doing keg stands on Tuesday night and then skipping class, right? And then tags him. Not good. This is not good. In fact, there was a story that came out in the news not too long ago about a woman who was fired because she had called in sick one day. It's like a random day, and she called in sick. Oh, I'm not feeling very well. And they said, oh, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. And then one of her friends posted a photo the next day that said, oh, my goodness, we had so much fun yesterday. Tagged her at this location, rock climbing. and she was fired. Not because of what she put online, but because of what her friend put online and what her privacy settings allowed other people who were strangers see about her. So be very, very careful about those Facebook stories. Again, be careful about blog entries. If they're not, if they're kind of way out there, you might want to scale that back, unless that's part of your brand. I mean, if you're in the creative industry or that's part of what you're doing, then maybe you want those wild and crazy ones, but maybe not, depending on your career field. Twitter accounts, Instagram photos, so anything that is like sexually suggestive, anything that's like a little too wild and crazy, you might want to get rid of, and again, friends tags. So you want to really watch out for that. So here's your special assignment number 2, Operation Cyber Sleuth. What I want you to do is find a friend, well, maybe not a close friend, but somebody in one of your classes that you're not Facebook friends with. How many people have a Facebook page? All right, so anybody who has Facebook, well, even if you don't have Facebook, but start with somebody that you're not Facebook friends with and ask them and agree to do this. So trade off with somebody, find somebody that you reasonably trust but that you're not already online friends with, and have them look you up. Ask them to log onto their computer and look at your Facebook page, and then show it to you. And then ask them to Google your name and show you what comes up, and then do the same for them. You're going to be shocked. Yes?
So, like, what if you have something on there, but it's like, oh, like, yeah, but they still, like, go along with that?
Well, okay, so you're kind of getting into, so you're what, 18? So how old were you in 2008? 10? 10? All right, so there's something really challenging for people who are your age or younger, because in 2008, something really interesting happened with Facebook. Up through 2007, Facebook was only open to people who had EDU addresses, so it was college students who were posting things about themselves and about their friends. In 2008, Facebook made anybody with an email address eligible to get a Facebook account. So there was a rush of people signing up who were no longer in college, and they were getting their addresses. So what do you think adults started posting pictures of in 2008? Cats, yes. What else? That affects you and people younger than you. Their kids, yeah. So your moms and dads, if they got on Facebook in 2008 and started saying, oh, Eric just did the funniest thing, ha, 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 that's all out there. So, yeah, so you can blame your moms and dads for anything really embarrassing. So I think that employers might be a little bit more lenient on things that were posted by your mom and that are just kind of mildly embarrassing. But you do want to watch out for stuff that's up there. And it depends on what that old information is. But something else you need to watch out for is people who have your same name. So there could be people who have your same name that are any kinds of, number of terrible things. So there's a woman named Kristen Lucas, spelled exactly like mine, and she had a torrid affair with a high-ranking Canadian official. And she was known for being sort of like this, like, social climbing, party girl, not the most upstanding reputation, perhaps, at least in Canada. So I need to watch out for that a little bit. I think that there's been enough photos posted of her, and we look very, very different from one another. So I think that once people see her photo, they go, oh yeah, you're not the Kristen Lucas who took down the, city governor of Toronto. So that's good, but you might need to be more careful, especially if there's other people from Louisville who have your same name. Maybe a relative, maybe somebody who's not a relative. So look at what comes up and figure out how to deal with it. And so if there is somebody, let's say there's somebody who comes up and they have your exact same name and they've been in the news for a criminal sexual assault. What are you going to do? Yeah, so what does that look like? What if people think that's you? So, there's ways that you can get around that. So if you Google yourself and find out that there's other people with your name who are coming up and perhaps influencing the way that you're perceived, come and talk to somebody in the Career Center and get some advice. It may be as simple as always using your middle initial to differentiate yourself from that person, so that might be one way to do it. But there's other strategies, but you need to know what's out there. All right, so now that we've got that cleared up, yes? Okay. Why? Oh, really? Huh. Ooh. I don't know. Do you have the same middle name? The exact same name. In some ways, some people might be able to figure that out because of age. So you do have that one advantage that you're many years apart in age, or at least enough years apart. So if you're filling out a form online and you get to attach your resume, I'd make sure the junior was on my resume. So there's other ways that you can signal that, even if their first initial form doesn't have that, because they're going to go beyond the form. So I'd make sure I'd put it on my resume. All right. Okay, so now, step 3 is fill in the gaps. So now what I want you to do is write down your dream job. No, that's fine. Yeah, so maybe your dream job is, so mine was working in financial public relations. That was my dream when I was about a junior, senior in college. So figuring that and putting that as your goal, because that's what strategy is about, is it's carefully orchestrated, goal-oriented activity. What kind of network is going to help you get to that kind of dream job? And a dream job can be any number of things. It can be working in a particular kind of organization, a particular city. You might have the exact employer, like no matter what, I'm going to work for ESPN. All right, so can I hear a couple dream jobs? Oh, all right. Who else? Yes, Eric. CEO of an airline. Ooh, nice. Who else? Yes. I want to be a financial advisor in an urban neighborhood. Excellent. Yes. Ooh, good for you. What else? Investment banking. All right. Ooh, very interesting. All right, so let's go off of that one, right? Because that's very specific, right? Artist relations at a production, like a film production company like Universal. So where are they located? LA, right? Okay, so, all right, what kinds of network, and what's your name? Chris? All right, so what kind of network is going to help Chris get to that kind of position? Because I'm guessing that they don't post that on like monster.com, right? So what kind of people are you going to need in that network? Yes? People from the film industry. Yeah, so he's going to need people who work in the film industry. How many people do you know in the film industry right now?
What I meant by that was more, I really want to work in like the music industry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right, so you need to know people in the music industry then, all right? What else?
Need to know people in LA, know where to go.
Yeah. So you probably also need to know people in LA. How many people do you know in LA? Not very many, all right. Who else is he going to need to know? People who work at Universal, that would be ideal, right? How many people do you know at Universal? Not very many. All right. So this is good, though, because you know what? Chris is here in this class today, and you're a freshman, and he is not going to graduate until... Pardon? Until you know somebody who works at Universal, right? So, but you have, like assuming that they want you to have your degree completed, you have 4 years to strategically build the most amazing network that is going to get you that job at Universal, because starting early is important. So right now you're identifying holes, and it's okay that you have holes, because you're going to be filling them in over the next 4 years, right? Maybe starting today even. All right. And I'm going to get you a contact of somebody who has connections to the music industry in LA, so talk to me after class. All right, so. All right, so what you need to do is figure out what that network looks like, what kinds of people fit into that, and then that way people can help you. Because you need to figure out what steps need to be taken and how you're going to get there. So here is special assignment number 3, Operation Dream Job. So what you do, and let me give you my story of my Operation Dream Job. Like I said, when I was in college, I wanted to work in financial public relations. And at the time, PR was a really tight field. Everybody wanted in. And it was kind of an abysmal field. So I don't know why I really wanted to be in financial public relations, or at least PR, because at the time they said there was about 1 job in PR for every 12 PR graduates. Now this is going back a number of years. And then the other thing that was going on at the time is that the average entry-level PR person was making a whopping $13,000 a year. Again, many years ago. But I still wanted to do it. I thought it would be the most exciting job that there could possibly be, but I had worked at a bank because I worked full-time before I went to college, and I knew there was more money in financial PR than just nonprofit PR, so I knew that I wanted to go into financial PR, and I thought, I'm going to do this. So this is what I did. The first thing that I did is I identified target connections. So again, go back a number of years. This was before Google. It was before Yahoo. It was before all this online stuff, but I was a member of a student professional organization called Public Relations Student Society of America. And it was a partner organization to Public Relations Society of America. And they published a directory, like a big old paper phone book every year of every member of the association. Now they just have it online, so it's a lot easier. But I needed to get my hands on this book, and the person who had a copy of this book was my boss. I was an intern, basically a work study in one of the offices on campus, and he was in PRSA. And I said, Matt, can I use your book? And he said, absolutely, here it is. So what I did is I went through the book and I found everybody in the city of Chicago who worked in financial public relations. And I just started calling them and putting out those feelers. So picked up the phone, made a long distance call because we didn't have cell phones in those days. And I said, hi, my name is Kristen Lucas. I know you haven't met me, but I am the president of the Northern Michigan University chapter of PRSSA. And I noticed that you are a member of the financial sector of PRSA. Lots of acronyms, I know, but that established me as an insider. And they said, okay, and I said, I'm going to be in Chicago on June 12th. I randomly told them I was going to be in Chicago. I had no plan on being in Chicago, but I told them I was going to be there. I'm going to be in Chicago on June 12th, and I was wondering if you had any opportunity, any time in your schedule for me to come in and talk to you about careers in financial PR. And the first thing they said was, we're not hiring. And I said, oh, but don't worry, because like Chris, I started early. I said, I'm not graduating. So I still have a year of school left. I do not need a job. I'm going to school in Michigan. Do you have time to talk to me? And they said, absolutely. And the next thing they said was, how about lunch? Let me buy you lunch. I went, oh, this is really easy. First phone call, June 12th. So then I called the next one and said, and then I expanded it to 2 days. I'm going to be in Chicago on June 12th and 13th and was wondering if you had any time to talk to me. And they said, I have time on the 12th. Let me take you to lunch. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I do have another appointment on June 12th, and they said, okay, well, how about morning? I'll get you coffee and bagels, right? And so I got coffee and bagels every morning. I was there for, I think, 2 or 3 days, coffee and bagels every morning. I got lunch every afternoon. I got afternoon coffee and snacks from other folks. You know, like they basically, because when they knew that I wasn't asking for a job, I was asking for information, people who are in your extended network, that professional network of PRSA connected to PRSSA, doors started opening up. So then the next step is that I conducted informational interviews. So I wrote down a whole big long list of questions that I wanted answered that would be very bad taste to ask in a job interview, but it was an informational interview. So I got to say, hey, you know, like, tell me about progression and how much money are people starting out making and how much can they expect to make in 5 years and what's the pathway to promotion and what kinds of skills are you looking for and what is a typical day like. And then at the end, I took out my portfolio. Again, it was paper. It was the 1990s. And I showed it to them and said, looking at my portfolio, knowing that I have a year more in school, or in Chris's case, 3 more years in school, what could I do to make myself competitive for one of your positions? And they gave me great advice. Like, you're doing well here and here and here, but one of the things that I see missing is this. So I went right back to campus and started doing that. They told me I didn't have enough writing for the student newspaper, so I showed up at our student newspaper and started writing the next week. So conduct those informational interviews, and then follow up on those established relationships. So after it was over, I wrote thank you notes to everybody. And said, thank you so much for meeting with me. I appreciate the time that you took, and the lunch, or the bagels, or the coffee, or the afternoon snacks. And I really appreciated this piece of information that you shared and the advice on my portfolio. You told me to write for the student newspaper, and I'm already doing that. Here is the amazing thing that happened to me. So I told you that people were making $13,000 in my field. One of the people wrote me back and said, when you get done, we're so impressed with you, when you get done, we want to offer you a job as an administrative assistant. Okay, so you might be hearing that and going, oh, you wanted to work in financial PR and they're going to hire you as administrative assistant. That's a bummer. But it wasn't a bummer because I knew how their system worked. This is the Financial Relations Board in the John Hancock Towers in Chicago, like 2 or 3 floors from the top of the building. And what they said is nobody got hired as an account rep. Everybody came in as an administrative assistant. And you worked in that role as you learned the ropes of the job, but as you did that, they paid for you to get your MBA at any university in Chicago you could get into. University of Chicago, Northwestern, University of Illinois, Chicago, whatever one you wanted, they paid 100% of your MBA. When you got done with your MBA, by that time you had 2 or 3 years of work experience, and then you were promoted to your own accounts as your own account rep. Administrative assistants, when people are getting paid $13,000, started out at 40, which is considerably more. And again, you have to remember this is the 90s, so 40,000 was a lot more than it is now. And by the time they got done 3 years later, they were making 70, which even today is good money. So, and that all came from Operation Dream Job. So I want you to think about Operation Dream Job. Go out to LA. If you want to go to Chicago, go to Chicago. If you want to stay here in Louisville, start knocking on doors here in Louisville. You can network even in your own city. So I gave this assignment to some students, and let me share 2 student success stories. One guy said, I don't want to leave my company. I love my company. I've been working there full-time, going to school part-time. He was a non-traditional student. Not terribly non-traditional, but kind of like maybe later 20s. He set up an informational interview with his vice president and asked all these questions. When he got done, the vice president, and he said, and by the way, I asked him, I saw that he was coming into town, into their region, and said, I know that you're going to be in Lincoln, Nebraska. Would you have time to meet with me when you're there? And the guy said, yeah, can I take you out to dinner? Because I don't have anyone to eat dinner with. So he took him out to the nicest restaurant in town and bought him like a real nice steak dinner as they had this conversation. So they drank some wine and they ate some steaks. They talked about life in the company. And afterwards, the VP said, I'm so impressed with you. As soon as you finish your degree, we have a pathway to high-level offices waiting for you. Somebody else had done this. Her dream job was to live in the same city as her boyfriend. Very practical. She was living in West Lafayette, Indiana at the time. She wanted to move to Salt Lake City. And I told her, what you need to do is you need to talk to people. Let them know what you're looking for. And so she took my advice, and she called people, and she said, you'd never believe what the first thing they told me was. They said, yes, can I take you to lunch? So she called because she was going on spring break. So she was going on spring break to meet her boyfriend. She called a couple people that she had looked up online through Google. They agreed to meet with her, but then she told her boyfriend to tell his friends that she was looking for a job in sports and entertainment PR. And so he went, and he's going for a jog with his jogging buddy in the morning. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend's coming to visit. And he's like, well, what is she going to do when you're at work? He's like, I don't know. She's setting up these interviews. She has this crazy idea that I'm supposed to tell people, as he's jogging, I'm supposed to be telling people that she's looking for a job in marketing, PR, and sports or entertainment. And again, this is back in a bunch of years ago when I was at Purdue. And his jogging buddy says, oh, my aunt is heading up, she's the local chairman for the Olympic Committee for the Salt Lake City Games coming up. Does she want to talk to my aunt? She's like, yeah, she does want to talk to your aunt. So you never know where those connections are coming from. So Operation Dream Job. All right, so number 4, you get a fabulous job. Maybe not your dream job, maybe it's one on the path to your dream job. Networks don't belong only to external trying to get a job. They also belong once you get into organizations. Like I said, once you get into organizations, your network within that organization is going to get you career sponsorship and information and resources. So you want to think about diversifying across units. So who can you talk to? What other departments do you want to work in? So when I worked at Shell Oil, I worked in contract services, which was part of the order fulfillment organization. It was such a big company. Downtown, just in 2 buildings downtown, there were more people than that lived in my hometown. So we had 8,000 people working downtown. That didn't count people at our IT services 10 miles down the road. It didn't count people out on the pipeline down on the Gulf of Mexico. I was just talking 2 buildings across the street from each other. So there are plenty of people to talk to. So think about going out and talking to people in IT, talk to people in marketing, talk to people in pricing analysis, because the more you go out and talk to folks, the more knowledge you're going to get about your organization and its operations. Particularly important in large organizations, but it's also helpful in small ones. But then you can use what you learn. I remember, and again, going back a bunch of years, order fulfillment said there's this new technology coming out that businesses are going to start using. It's called GPS. It's going to totally change how we do things. And I learned about GPS when I was at Shell Oil in 1996. I mean, that's a really exciting time to be learning about things. But you also have to be careful of not depleting your social capital. So you don't want to just keep using people for resources, but you want to give back to them. So you want to help people out. You want to say, hey, you need to talk to so-and-so. Or did you know that person's looking for that kind of information? I think the 2 of you should meet for lunch. So I went to a networking event for student athletes a couple of weeks ago, and I met some folks there who wanted to talk to people about sales positions, and I said, you know who you really need to meet? You need to meet one of my colleagues who teaches the sales classes. Let me put you in contact. So I got their cards. I emailed an email introduction to get them talking to each other, so these potential employers can come onto campus and get students for their jobs, but also provide jobs for our students. And again, that kind of goes to helping others build their networks. So special assignment number 3, or is this number 4? I think this is number 4, AKA Operation Field Trip. Once you get to that organization, give yourself field trips. And what I mean by this is when you're bored, because this is what I didn't know when I was at Shell Oil, is when you're bored, instead of saying, oh, I'm so bored because I'm doing these mind-numbing tasks, get up and go meet somebody in IT. Say, can I come down and look at Eric, can I come down and look at the servers and like all the IT stuff that you're managing? And you're going to be like, heck yeah, because nobody appreciates what I do in IT. Like, they only talk to me when they're complaining, right? Yeah, so sorry for the realistic job preview there. But yeah, he's going to want to show you the IT stuff. Other people are going to want to show you their supply chain management or their really cool assembly line or their really neat marketing office. They're going to want to show you their neat stuff. So go and take yourself on those field trips, because when you reach out to those kinds of connections, you actually make your job more interesting. And you learn more, and you're going to have so much knowledge about how the organization operates as a whole instead of your one little tiny area, that you're going to be better at your job. And then share that information with others. This book, if you're interested in networking, Never Eat Alone, Keith Ferrazzi says, everybody has to eat. And my Operation Dream Job shows that. Everybody likes to eat. He said you should never eat alone. And he made a list of people he wanted to meet. Michael Eisner, Neil Armstrong. He had just a big long list, and he just started going through that list and using his connections and always going to lunch and having a fabulous conversation every single day with somebody new until he got to meet everybody on his dream list. So that's a great book to read. It might give you some tips and tricks. And again, let me give you an example of an Operation field trip from my time at Shell Oil. Somebody's like, well, you know, we're kind of bored. What do we want to do? We want to learn about pipeline. So part of that was a helicopter ride over the Gulf of Mexico. Like, that's a good way to spend a Tuesday at work, right? Not so bad, checking out the Shell pipeline. I've also gone to a filling, like a tanker station where the tankers pull up, and we got to climb on top of like really cool tanks and see the operations of how trucks load up and dispatch deliveries to different gas stations. So lots of opportunities to learn. All right, so takeaways. Your social network is one of your most valuable resources for career success. Of course, you need to know how to do your job, and you need to come with that professionalism and work ethic that's going to help you be successful. But a social network can really take your career to the next level. Also, building that network is a lifelong process. It starts today, but it continues every day throughout your career, even after you land a job. But also beware that when you're going out and using those really fabulous online tools, that you're very careful about the image that you project, because people will be watching. All right, so what questions do you have for me? All right, I have some questions for you. What is the first thing that you're going to do to build your social network? Set up your LinkedIn page. And then what are you going to do once you get that set up? 5 connections. 1 endorsement or recommendation or both. All right, what's the next thing you're going to do? Yes. Sure.
Okay, so if we want to set up an informational interview and we don't really know where to start, who should we go talk to?
Oh, well, I would say one of the great resources that you have here is the Ulmer Career Center. And so they can help you down there, but of course, even us in the business communication unit, we can help you too. So there's myself and Jenna Haugen is another faculty member, and we even have some BizCom coaches, and they might be able to offer you some help as well. So that's where I would start. What else? I want three more questions from you. Yes?
If you're undecided in your major, how are you supposed to start networking early?
Oh, well, how undecided are you? But you're in the College of Business, right? So something with business. So what I would do is I would start by making those connections to my professors, right? And then I would make sure that I'm getting my endorsements and recommendations. Do you know where you want to live? Okay, well then I would just start locally, because those are the people that you're going to see the most. So I would think about when I'm turning 22, joining YPEL, but before then I would just go to as many things as possible, like job fairs, like the different kinds of events that we put on here in the College of Business. Sometimes when you'll have professors and they bring in guest speakers, maybe go up and ask a guest speaker for their card and then send them a LinkedIn request. And here's just a pointer on the LinkedIn request. There's a button that just says send request. And so sometimes I'd use that button if there's somebody that I know really well. Like, you know, I've known them forever. My roommate from college, I think I just clicked on the button. Some of my friends, I will write it, because you can personalize the note, because it comes up with a note that says, hi, I'd like to add you to my professional LinkedIn network, Kristen. Well, that's kind of generic, and sometimes people don't remember, especially if it was at a networking event, so I would always tweak that. Like, hey, it was so great meeting you at the whatever. I loved what you said about XYZ. I'd like to connect. So I'd add a little paragraph, something a little bit short, just so people know where you met them. Yes?
I would encourage anybody who's undecided to go to RSO meetings, because if you go to a student marketing association and you like are dying in the meeting, it might not be a feel for you. But if you go to a finance meeting and you hear what they're saying and it's intriguing and interesting, that might be your roadmap. So do the RSO. So there's Student Marketing Association, Student Financial Market Association, Investment Club. It's a Delta Sigma Pi is all business fraternity. There's Beta. Which one's the one that's Beta Alpha Psi is CIS Accounting Finance crew together, and then there's some econ group. This is a great way. Go to their speakers and hear what they're talking about and see if that interests you.
All right. And Eric, you had a question?
Yes, I did. Regarding the LinkedIn page, whenever you're listing, like if I'm like going to make one, but whenever I put down skills, you talked about having like references for those skills. What would be? I'm not really sure like what I could credibly say my skills are.
Well, at this point, you might have two skills, right? So one of them might be, have you taken CIS 100 yet?
No.
All right, or maybe you don't have any skills at this point. But you can kind of take a look through other people's lists. But after you take CIS 100, I would probably add Microsoft Office or Microsoft Excel. Excel's probably more of a interesting one than Office. But maybe you have public speaking skills, something like that. Yes.
Me.
Yes, Natalie.
Playing off of his question, do you have to have a class to back that skill, or can it also be job experience?
Oh, job experience is fabulous. I mean, most professionals get most of their experience from the job.
Another thing I was just going to suggest too, because you don't actually have to make out your own. You can ask someone like, hey, what skills do you think I have? That would be good, and they can just endorse you. You don't have to put them on your LinkedIn at all.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was going to ask, one of the specific jobs that I want to go into is like an unorthodox career, and it's like a gray area as in terms of like who I should contact.
Okay. Well, the more the merrier, because you can never have too large, well, generally speaking, you can never have too large of a network. So if you have more of a network than you need, that's fine. And you never know where some of those strange connections are going to come from, because somebody you know that you don't think is related has like some sort of connection in a different direction. So I would say just go ahead and connect. Don't rule people out. I think you can get too large of a network in some cases. If you're just like clicking on every who you might know picture that comes up just because you can click on them and it's so easy, don't do that if you don't actually know them, because if it gets so big and you don't know where you met anybody from and they're just like a random list of names, I don't think that that's effective. But just as long as you can put a name with a face, and if you saw them, you'd be like, oh, hey, Jeff, nice to see you, then keep them in your network. What other questions? Yes?
I'm a student athlete, and I don't really have time for a job because I'm a student athlete. Do you think I should put on my LinkedIn profile that I am one, like a student athlete?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's some companies that particularly love to hire student athletes because you're good at time management skills, competitive, goal-oriented, right? So you have a lot of those things from being a student athlete, so absolutely list that. Yes?
Yeah, my question was kind of similar to that too. Like, except I've never had like, I guess, a super great sounding job in that lifeguarded through high school. Is that something that is still worth putting on there?
Yeah, I would, at some point, that this is what I think about my resume, and the things that I had on it when I was in college look different than what is still on it today. And so when you put things in reverse chronological order, sometimes the stuff on the bottom falls off as it becomes less significant. So are you who was gonna, no, guy down from you was gonna be the CEO of an airline, right? That was you. Okay, so when you're the CEO of an airline, you may not have lifeguarding on there anymore, but actually it kind of connects. Safety culture, right? So you might find a way to keep that in, but yeah, keep that on there because it's going to show discipline. It's going to show work ethic, especially for people. Even if you think you're working terrible jobs right now, how many people think that they're working a terrible job to pay their way through college? Anybody? No? Awesome that there's hardly anybody. Okay. I worked some terrible jobs. My first job was a truck stop waitress. Then I repoed people's cars. Like, I had weird jobs getting myself through college. But when you say, I did this to put myself through college, that means something. So people are going to look for that because that's going to be a marketable skill as well. Anything else? Are you excited? Yes. Fabulous. Are you going to have an incredible Friday? Yeah. Fabulous. All right. Well, it was so nice to meet you all. And I hope to, oh, one more thing. Like I said, I am in the business communication group. I do want to make a plug. We have a business communication coach office. How many people have seen this or heard of it? All right, some of you have heard of it. On the third floor of the College of Business, we have a dedicated office with 2 really talented business communication coaches. If you want help with writing, speaking, PowerPoints, negotiating team projects, anything like that, sign up for them. You can find them at bizcom.louisville.edu. There's a link to their sign-up sheet. It's really easy to fill out. And you can get one-on-one coaching. This is the kind of thing that when people work in industry, they pay $100 an hour to get a coach like this to come in and give them coaching. So take advantage of it if you're struggling or if you want to move to the next level. So thank you.
So in terms of building your network, anybody you meet in the business school is going to help you. Talk to your advisors. I mean, there's a lot of people who know people who will make connections, even if it's just things you're interested in doing at this level, maybe not even at the professional level. So always be asking those questions when you meet people, when you talk, well, I have this interest, because you'll be surprised when you connect with people. But so just real quick, what Kristen was talking about, Google searching your name. So if you look at my name, pretty benign. It's international, all that fun stuff that I do. But there's a funny one in my LinkedIn profile. So this one, it's not. So this one cracks me up. If you look at this Facebook thing. So Jen is, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s now, but she was a kid at the pool when I was a lifeguard in high school and college. When she got married, she had the guys who were her designated drivers wear T-shirts that said, "Let me take you home." They were hilarious. I mean, it was like, they were hilarious T-shirts to see, but when you Google my name, that quote comes up. So be conscientious. Like, I wouldn't have thought, like, one random quote. And honestly, I think Jen has 2 kids now. She's been married, I think 5 or 6, I think she's been married 8 years. She's been married a long time. This still comes up. Really, I mean, of all my things, that comes up more than, oh, there's dual degrees, international stuff. I've done a lot of things in those 8 years, and that's what comes up. So just be aware of what's going to come up and what you put on your Facebook and how long the half-life some of that stuff may have. All right, for your question of the day. So what was your assignment to do that Dr. Lucas said you need to do as soon as you leave this class? There's bins on both sides. So make sure you leave your card, please.